Hi, welcome to the campaign. I'm your host, Liza. Let's get on. My notes. It is in this moment that I have an ounce of regret for only having a mic that I can physically hold with my hand. Okay, so for reference, I moved here about a year ago, almost exactly, and I'm going to tell you everything to do and not to do because, in my opinion, New York is probably the most different place in the country from living in the South. And honestly, I decided to move here on a whim, and things are working out pretty good for me. So, are you crazy for wanting to move to New York? Yes, but I think you have to be a little bit crazy for it to work out. You know that graphic that always comes up on Pinterest? It's like, I know things are going to work out because I'm so crazy. You kind of have to have that attitude about moving to New York. There's a ton of pros and cons of living in New York. I mean, pro, public transportation. Con, you don't have a car. Pro, it's incredibly walkable. Con, you probably won't have a dishwasher in your apartment. But the number one con of everywhere else is that it's not New York City.
What's wrong with her?
She's not Rachel.
So I broke this down into several categories. The first one is going to be finances. The second one is going to be jobs. The third one is going to be neighborhoods. The fourth one is going to be shopping. And the fifth one is going to be the subway. And then I'm going to wrap it up with some just tips and tricks from someone who somehow made it work. So right off the bat, finances.
You know, when I first moved to New York and I was totally broke, sometimes I would buy Vogue instead of dinner. I just felt it fed me more.
So that's probably everyone's biggest concern is, oh my God, how am I going to afford to live here? Because it really seems impossible. It all just comes down to your lifestyle choices. The rule of thumb is to make 4 times your rent. And hey, honestly, coming from a creative person, that's not always doable. I'm honestly never making 4 times the rent. And I don't think a lot of people in their early 20s are. I would say you need to estimate your rent to be half of your monthly income.
Hello from the editing cave. I wanted to come on here and let you guys know that probably the best way to find housing is going to be on Facebook. I found my first apartment through that way, and now that roommate is one of my closest friends. So honestly, it can be a really good way to go.
Another way to help get some cash is sell your car. If you're in the South, you probably have a car. Sell your car. You do not need it. That car payment is going to kill you. Having car insurance in the city is so expensive. It's just not worth it. There's public transportation everywhere. Another good rule of thumb is in New York, if you find anything super, super, super cheap, it's probably too good to be true. Next, jobs.
From then on, once a month, when I went to Vogue, I thought it best to work exclusively with Enid.
I feel like this kind of goes hand in hand with finances, but my biggest tip is as soon as you realize, oh my God, I want to move to New York City, I want to take this leap, get a job, unfortunately, in one of those big kind of corporate stores. Because when you work at these corporate stores, usually you can just transfer to another location. So for me personally, I worked at Starbucks. I worked there for a long time. I was able to move to New York because I could just transfer to a store here in the city. And granted, I don't work there anymore, but it helped me really get settled because one, it's going to have some built-in friends. Not exactly close friends, but people that you will meet and talk to. Second, you can stay there as long as you like, and it's going to be decent income, and you're not going to be totally jobless when you first move here. Some stores that do it are like, well, I know Starbucks does it because I worked there. Bath and Body Works, Whole Foods, TJ Maxx, Macy's, like if you just find a big chain, especially if it's a really popular chain, typically they have a transfer to another store system happening. And honestly, living in New York, I would say it's more fun to have 2 part-time jobs than 1 full-time office job because that's how you're going to meet the most interesting people. Next, neighborhoods.
It's a house?
In Brooklyn.
Okay, shoes are off. What did I tell you about that side of the paper?
My number one piece of advice, live outside of Manhattan. Please, for the love of God, live outside of Manhattan. You're going to want to have that like Sex and the City, Friends, Will and Grace experience. And honestly, those are TV shows. Don't live in Manhattan. It is so expensive. And honestly, you can live in some of these places and get into the city within 15 minutes. And most of the friends that you make won't live in the city. So don't live in the city. Top neighborhood, the slot is really tied between 2. So the top I put in as Ridgewood, Queens. It's almost Brooklyn. It's like Brooklyn's cousin. I'm 2 streets from Brooklyn, but I'm technically in Queens. The train line that runs through here is the M, and it's above ground. I've never had any safety issues on the M. It's amazing. Ridgewood is so affordable. It is so affordable, especially if you have roommates. And there's so many cute coffee shops. Every Sunday morning, I go to Norma's. Ooh, Bars. Ridgewood has great bars. My favorite bar is the Bad Old Days. Another good one is Aunt Jenny's, and Aunt Jenny's has more of a southern feel. So that's why I like to go there. Next, tied for the top is Astoria. Astoria is also in Queens, but it's in a different part of Queens. So these are the train lines that run through there. You have Astoria Park. It's really safe. A lot of people do start out in Astoria, and a lot of people don't want to leave. It's known especially for its food, especially its Greek food. And my favorite restaurant in Astoria is called Milk Flour. They have the best margarita pizza I've ever had in my life and a really killer Caesar salad. Astoria is great. I love going up to Astoria and walking around. Usually people were walking with their dogs, families, strollers, you know. Next, if you must live in Manhattan, Lower East Side or Upper East Side. Lower East Side because it's so easy to commute into Brooklyn and stuff, see your friends shows, things like that. Good nightlife over there. It's not as safe, but that's also part of living in Manhattan. Manhattan is not that safe from my experience. Upper East Side is going to be a little bit more expensive, but you're really close to the park. So being from the South, the Upper East Side might be a good pick for you because you value being close to nature and, you know, seeing greenery every once in a while. Upper East Side, there are some affordable options. So you don't want to go too high up because then it's really hard on the East Side with the train. Next, number 4, we have Bushwick. Everybody's heard of Bushwick. Everybody knows of the performative guys that live in Bushwick. But honestly, Bushwick and Ridgewood are cousins. And Bushwick is going to be a lot of young people. Bushwick is primarily people that are in their young to mid 20s. That's going to be a really good way to build a community. I also recommend Bushwick if you have more of a nightlife attitude. If you are a night owl and you go out and you go partying and you do all these things, live in Bushwick. Live in Bushwick. Trust me. Bushwick takes the cake for just clubs, parties, raves. You're going to want to live in Bushwick for that. And then I'd say this is a little bit of a less affordable option, but Upper Williamsburg, Lower Greenpoint. I love this neighborhood, specifically off the Bedford L stop. That's where I go to get my hair done. It's a great area. I've had friends that have lived there and they just rave about it, but you will want to spend time in Williamsburg, I will say. So now here are the neighborhoods that do not live in my humble opinion. These are honestly kind of in no particular order. So I'm just going to list them. So Fide. If you're from the South especially, you will get no sunlight. It is loud. It smells terrible. I found that most of the train stations down there, when it gets to be some of those last stops, that's when you run into the crazy people a little bit. You know, everyone that you're going to see is either tourists or finance bros, and that's probably my own personal hell. Next is East New York / Brownsville. I have actually not made the trek out here before, but it is in Brooklyn. But when I moved here, someone told me do not go out there. And everyone that I've talked to has said don't go out there, especially if you're a transplant. Next, this is a hot take. People are going to disagree with me, but Dumbo. I hate Dumbo. There's only one exit in the train station. There's only one train that runs into Dumbo, and it's the F. It's the York Street F, and I hate that train. It is unreal how expensive these places are. There's some cute stuff there, but all the cute stuff is going to be overrun by tourists, and also getting anywhere on that train station. I don't know how anybody could do that every day. Next is where I first started, which was Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen was amazing to me at first, and it has such a special place in my heart, but it is so loud, and there are so many people. It is only tourists. If you're still in Hell's Kitchen, you basically feel like you're in Times Square. There's crazy people everywhere. I can't do it. The only reason I would live in Hell's Kitchen again is if I was an older gay man. If I was an older gay man, you could never get me out of the gayborhood, okay? You can never get me out of Mickey's. The next section is going to be shopping.
I spent $40,000 on shoes and I have no place to live?
Shopping is one of the best parts of living in New York City, but it can be really easy to go really overboard really fast. So for furniture, I recommend stooping. And if you don't know what stooping is, it is basically where people will put their lightly used, sometimes heavily used, things, furniture, items, anything out on the street close to their trash day, and people will come up and pick it up. There is an Instagram called Stooping NYC, and you can follow those for very live updates. I got my coffee table from Stooping. I got a shelf from Stooping one time. Next, Marketplace. Almost all of my furniture in my apartment is from Marketplace. I found my dream couch, which was $1,300. I found it on Marketplace, lightly used, $200. And then I used Dolly by TaskRabbit, which I highly recommend for helping me move that. So that was another $200. So it was about $400 total, just because I live on the 3rd floor of an apartment and it's just a walk up. So moving a couch up here, I had to pay some extra money for that. So next is clothes. My number one store for clothes is Urban Jungle off the Morgan Avenue L stop. Okay, Urban Jungle, it's mixed with an L train vintage. If you're wondering where all the cool New York people are shopping, it's probably there. It is a L train vintage and an Urban Jungle mixed together. I got a $350 winter coat there for $30. I buy almost all of my clothes from there exclusively as of lately. Next, you want new clothes. I recommend TJ Maxx. Next, Goodwill, specifically the Goodwill in Chelsea. I like the Goodwill in Chelsea a lot. I think they have some really good stuff. I've gotten a couple Abercrombie and Fitch things from there. That's a good Goodwill. Another one for just silverware, trinkets, just different home goods things. I recommend Home Goods in Glendale. You can take the M all the way out to Metropolitan, and then you can get on a bus. It takes you right there. But honestly, if you're going there once in a blue moon, just take a cab. It's so worth it. It's so huge. It's just like the Home Goods in the South. It literally feels like you go back to the South when you're in that store. Another fun trinket store is Friends NYC, also off the Morgan Avenue L stop. So you can hit that and Urban Jungle back to back. Fish's Eddy, they have a bunch of different locations, I think. They have such cute dishware and mugs and plates and towels. It's so cute. It is expensive. But yes, I recommend Fish's Eddy at least to walk around a little bit. That's pretty much where I shop. If I'm ever going shopping, it's to one of those places. The last big section is the subway. You are going to move here and you are going to not understand anything about the subway. Native New Yorkers are going to make fun of you for not understanding, but that's okay. It's so difficult to understand when you have never lived in an environment with public transportation, aka the South. My best advice that I can give you in rapid order fashion is check the sign before walking into the station, because typically it will say if it is running uptown or downtown. If it doesn't say either of them, then it's running both, and you can just go to either way you need to go. But some stations, you go in and they only have one platform and you can't get to the uptown or the downtown side unless you go across the street and go down a different staircase. So if you needed to get on the uptown C, you do not want to walk into a station that says downtown C. Now you may be like, okay, uptown, downtown, what does that mean? Uptown, up. Downtown, down. Uptown also is the equivalent of when they say Queens. Queens bound in train. That's going uptown. If it's going downtown, sometimes it'll say Brooklyn bound. So uptown and Queens, downtown and Brooklyn. Trains are insane on the weekends. They are insane on the weekends. They always are running different on the weekends. That's my biggest complaint with the trains. Stay away from the ledge. That's pretty self-explanatory. Stay passively alert. You are always head on a swivel. Head on a swivel. Now the final section is just my general tips from someone that has lived here for a year. So
Should we get more coffee or should we get 2 guns and kill ourselves?
first, don't listen to the anti-transplant people. New York is a city that was made for people to move here from all over the world. This is not the same as me complaining about people from California moving to Nashville, because I'll complain about that all damn day. But New York is a city that was built to have a lot of people. And yes, there's gentrification and people are upset about the gentrification, but the gentrification is not your fault. The gentrification is not the fault of a girl moving to New York from the South. It's not your fault. You are not the government. You are not the people that are paying to build, these high rises and tearing out these mom and pop shops. You are not starting all these startups. They're gonna blame you, even though it has nothing to do with you, really. Another tip is delis are not grocery stores. So if you see an apartment and you're like, oh my God, it's right by this deli, that's not a grocery store. They usually will have some food that they can make fresh for you, but those big gas stations in the South when you're on a road trip? It's kind of like that. Do not move here in the winter. Do not. It is so different than any winter you have experienced in the South. I moved here in January. Biggest regret, it is so cold. It is so cold. I personally recommend moving here in May or August. And then my most real piece of advice is it's going to get worse before it gets better. You are not going to move here and be the next Carrie Bradshaw as soon as you step off that plane. You are not going to get the trains right away. You are not going to make lifelong friends the day that you get here. It's going to take time. Everybody that's moving here is starting out just where you are. Go to events and things where there's people there that you want to be friends with. So I met all my friends that I have right now on a 48-hour film project. And because I'm a filmmaker, I'm a screenwriter. And so I met these people with similar goals. It's better to meet people in an environment that you see yourself wanting to be in more. And then you're going to meet people that really align with the type of lifestyle that you want to have. My biggest thing that I can say is say yes instead of no. You need to say yes as much as you can. Unless safety is a concern, say yes instead of no. Spend that money. The money will come back. The time won't. Building a community comes from inconveniencing yourself. You're going to do things that you don't want to do. That's my advice as someone who moved to New York. I moved here completely by myself. I knew nobody, and it was really hard. And you're gonna want to go home, and you're gonna want to cry, and all these things. But you cannot go home. You have to stay. You know, you're not meant to be here forever, but you're meant to be here now, or you wouldn't be here. Know that it's going to be okay. The hard times will pass. The loneliness will pass. It's going to come in waves. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week for the next episode of The Campaign. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.